By 1980, the 20-minute acoustic epics that defined the previous decade were being replaced by a much harder, more metallic aesthetic. The raw energy of punk and new wave was dominating the club scene, making the polished, complex arrangements of the 1970s feel increasingly out of touch. For bands built on elaborate flutes and fantasy narratives, the new landscape presented a choice between commercial irrelevance or total adaptation. Survival required more than a change in style. To move forward, these artists had to dismantle the very structural foundations of their music. Genesis began this process by moving into The Farm, a private studio in Surrey, and hiring Hugh Padgham, a young engineer known for his aggressive, modern approach to sound. The remaining trio, Mike Rutherford, Phil Collins, and Tony Banks, established a strict set of internal rules: no acoustic warmth, no extended guitar solos, and a total ban on the tambourines and reprises that defined their past. Out of these restricted rehearsals came Abacab, a track built from highly controlled experimental jam sessions. The resulting song provided a technical framework that would come to characterize the sound of 1980s pop production. The title, Abacab, actually originated as a shorthand for the song's physical construction. As they rehearsed, the band labeled distinct musical sections as A, B, and C to test how arrangements flowed. They eventually settled on a sequence easy to communicate in the studio, which spelled out AB, AC, AB. Although the final recording eventually shifted into an extended jam, they kept the title to represent a new focus on repetitive, rhythmic new wave grooves. By treating the song as a series of modular, interchangeable units, Genesis moved away from narrative-heavy compositions toward a more streamlined, rhythmic arrangement. Mike Rutherford's double-neck guitar represents the instrumentation of the band's earlier work. In the 1970s, the electric guitar handled the primary melodic work, but here it is relegated to a rhythmic pulse. Tony Banks' synthesizers filled that melodic void. By bringing these bright, sharp tones to the absolute front of the mix, the band created a much denser, more industrial soundscape. This shift towards synthesizer-led melodies signaled a broad change in the frequency spectrum of pop music, moving away from the mid-range of rock guitars toward the higher, sharper frequencies of the keyboard. To understand the track's impact, we have to isolate the drums. Phil Collins and Hugh Padgham used this song to refine what became the most recognizable drum sound of the decade. The kit was recorded in a highly reflective room, creating a massive, natural reverberation that decays slowly. Padgham then applied a noise gate. This control allows the initial punch-through, but abruptly cuts off the tail end in milliseconds. This gave the human performance the sterile, massive punch of a machine, establishing the rhythmic standard for early 80s production. Abacab was a commercial success, reaching the top 10 and proving that the band could thrive in a pop-focused market. However, the shift alienated their original audience, who often booed the new, synth-heavy material during the subsequent tour. Yet the scale of these stadium crowds proved the trade-off worked. Genesis had traded their niche progressive status for a massive multi-platinum following. For Genesis, moving into the pop-rock landscape meant prioritizing the reach of their new sound over the expectations of their original fanbase. The elements defined during these sessions, synthesizer leads, modular structure, and gated drums, soon appeared on countless records across the genre. Abacab serves as a point of departure, marking the moment a major rock band abandoned the traditions of the 1970s to establish a new set of production standards.